You won't believe what happened next. A 92-year-old with braids and a half smile walked on stage, lifted a scarred old guitar, and turned a lifetime of wounds into 3 minutes of peace. How does someone carry that much loss and still sound like sunrise? Tonight, we're not just talking about a country legend. We're talking about a man who kept getting knocked down by life and kept standing back up song after song. If his voice ever tugged at something inside you, stick around. This chapter might be the one that explains why. Before the awards and the anthems, Willie Nelson was a little kid in a tiny Texas town with more dust than sidewalks. He was born in Abbott in 1933, and it didn't take long for the world to test him. His mom drifted out. His dad found another life. Two babies, Willie and his sister Bobby, were left with their grandparents, kind people with calloused hands who did their best to stitch together a home out of faith and hard work. It wasn't neglect, it was survival, but survival has a way of leaving fingerprints. The first person who really put a compass in Willie's hands was his grandfather, a blacksmith with a gentle presence and a steady way. He sat the boy down, placed a guitar in his lap, and showed him how strings could answer questions you didn't know how to ask. Then pneumonia came and stole that anchor away. Willie was 6. You don't forget a loss like that. You learn to carry it. He once wrote that having parents alive somewhere out there, but not coming back, felt worse than a funeral. Imagine that for a second. Not an absence you can grieve, but a presence you can't reach. That kind of empty room shapes a kid. It teaches you to speak to the quiet. And that's what Willie did. He played, he sang, he filled the silence with sound because silence hurt too much. By 7, other kids were playing marbles. Willie was holding a guitar like it was a life vest. By 9, he was up on small stages, church pews, dance halls, the places where a tune could buy you a plate of food or a little respect. In the fields, the Texas sun didn't just shine, it punished. He picked cotton until his fingers stung. He learned the math of desperation. Hours worked for dollars earned, and too often, neither were enough. The catalog of teenage jobs reads like a whole town's want ads: tree trimming, dishwashing, DJ shifts, selling encyclopedias door to door, trying to trade facts for groceries in houses that sometimes didn't have chairs. And then there were the nights when rejection felt like gravity. Nashville kept saying no. No to the voice, no to the look, no to the way the words fell. One night, in a story that doesn't win applause but explains a lot, Willie walked onto a usually busy road and lay down on the asphalt, more numb than reckless. Cars swerved, nobody stopped, no light bulb moment, no movie scene epiphany. Just a man who finally stood up, brushed off the grit, and walked back inside for another drink. Sometimes the bravest thing isn't some grand gesture, it's choosing to keep breathing. He hitchhiked with music for company. He slept where he could. He kept writing, and now, here's where the twist sneaks in. Willie was already a world-class songwriter before most people knew his name. Broke in Houston, Baby on the Way. He sold a gospel-soaked song called Family Bible for a quick $100 or so. It went on to become a staple on the radio, just not with his name on it. That stung. But he kept going. Then came a run of melodies that would outlive all of us. And Crazy, a heartbreaker that Patsy Cline turned into Forever. Funny How Time Slips Away, which Billy Walker carried into history. Pretty Paper, which Roy Orbison wrapped his voice around. The songs were everywhere, and Willie was nowhere. He was the guy behind the curtain while other people stood under the spotlight singing his feelings back at him. Nashville's message to him as an artist didn't budge. Too rough, too honest, not shiny enough. They wanted a polished suit and a pompadour. He brought braids, a beat-up guitar, and bare truth. Now listen to this part because it's where fate gets interesting. Everything collapses at once. His ranch near Nashville burns down. His marriage to Shirley Colley unravels after an envelope arrives. One of those regular day things that detonates a life. She opens a hospital bill and sees a name that isn't hers. Connie. The bill is for the birth of a baby girl, Paula. Willie tried to sidestep at first, then finally told the truth. The marriage ended. He would marry Connie later. But the cost of that mistake walked beside him for years, not just in headlines, but in quiet rooms. Career? Not much better. RCA didn't see a future in him unless he fit the mold. He didn't, so he packed what was left of his pride and returned to Texas. And that choice changed everything. Austin in the early 70s wasn't a neatly labeled scene. It was a wild mix. Hippies next to cowboys, boots next to bare feet. Nobody cared about the Nashville rule book. They cared if you meant it. Willie walked into that smoke haze freedom and met a crowd that finally heard exactly what he'd been saying his whole life. Truth. He made a record with a title that sounded like a grin with a chipped tooth, Shotgun Willie. It didn't try to please radio, it tried to be honest. Then, phases and stages, a heartbreak cycle that felt like a diary you weren't supposed to read, but couldn't put down. And then came the Whisper Quiet Revolution, Red-Headed Stranger, Minimal, Haunting, the kind of record people said wouldn't work because it didn't shout, but it didn't have to. It leaned in, and the world leaned back. And then the movement had a name, Outlaw. Willie teamed up with Waylon Jennings, Jesse Coulter, and Tom Paul Glaser for Wanted. The Outlaws, a record that didn't just sell, it rewrote the rules. Meanwhile, he found brotherhood with Johnny Cash and Chris Christopherson, forming a band of highway saints who didn't need permission to be themselves. The hair got longer, the suits got looser, the sound got freer. The stage? He built it his way. But success doesn't mean the storm stop. It just means you have better boots. The 80s rolled into the 90s, and then a letter changed the temperature of the room. The government said Willie owed a mountain in back taxes, millions upon millions from a mess of bad advice and worse accounting. Agents showed up, equipment gone, memories in boxes, even his beloved guitar, Trigger, was in the crosshairs. Think about that. The instrument that had been his co-pilot through every mile, suddenly something he might never hold again. Most people would crawl into a hole. Willie did what he always did. He sang. He recorded a bare bones record about memory itself and sold it in the most unglamorous way possible, late at night, directly to the people who loved him. Fans lined up. Dollars trickled in. It wasn't pity. It was payback. The good kind. The audience remembered the nights his songs had kept them company, and they returned the favor. The mountain shrank. He kept the guitar. He kept his dignity. Some losses don't show up on a balance sheet. Christmas morning, 1991, Willie got a call every parent prays they never get. His firstborn, Willie Nelson, was gone. There are no words big enough to explain that kind of break. Believe me, he tried. But there are spaces even music can't fill. For a while, the holidays weren't about lights and crowds. They were about surviving the calendar. He kept playing, but you could hear the pause between notes in a new way, as if the songs were catching their breath with him. Time kept moving, because it always does. In 2020, his drummer and right-hand man, Paul English, passed away. Paul wasn't just the heartbeat on stage. He was a guardian off stage, the guy who could settle up or stare down. Family called him the co-patriarch. Willie called him essential. 2 years later, Bobby Nelson, the sister who had been there from the first piano, the first church chord, the first tiny stage, was gone too. If you've ever lost someone who knew the stories you don't remember, you know that hurt. It isn't just grief, it's a missing witness. And as the years crossed the map, other giants headed home. Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash. Even Chris Christopherson, the poet with the gravel road mind, pulled back from the lights. These days, when Willie stepped up to the microphone, you can feel a chorus of old friends standing just out of sight. Some nights he plays a tune a little slower, as if listening for a harmony he still expects to hear. All of this at his childhood desserts, industry doors slammed shut, taxes that could crush a mountain, empty chairs at holiday tables, adds up to a body that had to fight too. He started smoking when he was way too young, trading eggs from the chicken coop for packs of Camels like it was a fair deal. It wasn't. Over time, cigarettes cost him breath, shows, and family. He speaks about that part with the plainest sadness. Too many people he loved didn't live long enough. Eventually, he quit the tobacco. The damage was done, but he adjusted. When smoke of any kind became too rough, he switched to edibles. Less fire, more calm. In the mid-2000s teens, he tried stem cell therapy to help his lungs keep up with his heart. Some tours needed pauses, a few dates got canceled. The rumor mill guessed he might hang it up. He didn't. And that's the thing, he never does. He wakes up, aches where he aches, picks up Trigger, and turns whatever the day gives him into something you can hum. He eats simple, he moves gently, he breathes on purpose. He listens to his body but doesn't let it sit in the driver's seat. Ask his kids what keeps him going, and you'll hear the word purpose. Speaking of those kids, some of the best scenes in the late life movie of Willie Nelson happen when he's not alone on stage. Lucas Nelson stands to his side with a guitar and a grin that looks like history and future at once. Amy Nelson shows up with that same family spark. Micah Nelson writes, sings, experiments. When they play together, the songs feel like conversations across a long kitchen table. Old stories told new, with somebody always jumping in to add the part you forgot. Home? It's a spread of Texas land where the wind sounds suspiciously like a harmonica if you close your eyes. Close to Spicewood, private and wide, it's where Willie walks, thinks, and lets the chorus in his head settle into lines worth keeping. The house isn't a museum, but it could be. Walls that remember posters and photos and set lists, corners that know the smell of coffee at sunrise and the weight of boots after midnight. There's money again now. He rebuilt not just his catalog, but his life. You wouldn't know it from the way he moves. Same bus, same boots, same guitar with the hole worn through the wood from decades of right-hand rhythm. That scar in the top of Trigger feels like prophecy now, broken in the exact place where it makes its own kind of beauty. People like to ask him about death. He answers the same way he sings. Direct, no drama. He says he doesn't spend time worrying about it. When it comes, it comes. Until then, there are gigs to play and people to hug and jokes to tell. That calm isn't bravado. It's a person who has stood in every kind of weather and learned which storms you run from and which you just let pass over you. Let's circle back because there's a thread running through this story I don't want you to miss. The reason Willie Nelson matters isn't only that he wrote songs you can whistle, it's that he turned pain into service. He didn't deny the wound, he tuned it. Childhood abandonment became empathy. Industry rejection became a permission slip for misfits. Financial disaster became an object lesson in humility and community. Personal grief became tenderness on stage, those soft edges in his voice that make strangers feel seen. And yes, there were mistakes, big ones, choices that hurt people he loved. He doesn't hide from that truth. He learned to live beside regret without letting it swallow him. You can hear that in the humor he uses, like a bandana, not to cover up, but to mop the sweat and keep working. Ex-wives, he'll joke, and the punchline lands with a sigh and a shrug that tells you he's counting blessings and lessons in the same column now. So what's he doing at 92 besides disproving the math? He's still trading stories with new artists who weren't born when Redheaded Stranger came out. He's still showing up at festivals where kids in the front row recognize the song from their grandparents' vinyl and from their own playlists. He's still adding fresh pages to a career that could have ended a dozen times but kept getting resurrected by stubbornness and love. Now, maybe you're sitting there wondering why this hit so hard. It's simple. We all keep some kind of secret ache, a broken promise, a phone call that never came, a dream somebody laughed at. Willie Nelson is proof you can carry that ache into the spotlight without letting it define you. You can sing through it, talk through it, love through it, forgive through it. You can make the quiet parts of your life loud enough to help somebody else. And if you've ever been to one of his shows, you know the moment. He steps to the mic, the band settles, the crowd hushes. He counts soft, like he's letting the song wake up on its own. First chord. The room exhales. You can feel 50 years of highways in that one downstroke. You can hear the kid from Abbott who picked cotton until his fingers burned. You can hear the man who lay on a road and decided eventually to stand back up. You can hear the father setting a chair where someone used to sit. You can hear the friend who keeps a space in the harmony for voices he still misses. He's been called an outlaw. It fits, but maybe not for the reasons people think. He's an outlaw because he refused to be anything other than himself when the world offered 1,000 easier costumes. He's an outlaw because he believes truth is worth more than polish. He's an outlaw because forgiveness of others and of himself kept him free when bitterness would have made a prison. There's one more picture I want to leave you with. It's late. The show's over. The crowd is still buzzing as they shuffle out to the parking lot, telling each other which song made them cry this time. Backstage, Willie is quiet. He puts Trigger back in its case like it's a sleeping child. He smiles that small smile that says he's grateful and a little surprised that this old magic still works. Then he heads out into the night air. It smells like cedar and dust. Somewhere a coyote throws a question at the stars. He answers the only way he knows how, by promising to show up again tomorrow and let the music do its work. If you take anything from this story, let it be this. Every scar can be a string. Every loss can make a bigger space inside you where other people can sit and rest for a while. That's what Willie Nelson has done for 7 decades. turned hard miles into places where strangers feel at home. So here's my ask from one listener to another. If his music has ever helped you through a long drive, a long night, or a long season, if On the Road Again made you smile at a dashboard sunrise, if a soft verse in a quiet room put your heart back together, do something with that feeling. Drop a comment with the first Willie song that found you. Share this story with someone who needs to hear that getting back up counts as a victory. Tap that like button if you felt the weight and the wonder of this life. And if you want more deep dive stories about the people whose songs hold us up, hit subscribe. We've got miles to go, and the next chorus is already waiting.